good time. It's a great time to bring in Brian Dulik, Medina Gazette contributor for the Associated Press. Does a great job covering a lot of things up on the North Coast. We bring him into the Sam Bourquin Show now, 1310 WDPN from Progressive Field in beautiful downtown Cleveland. Brian, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Sam. I am hot. It's really warm
Right,
here again.
right. I think the real feels, 97, 98, something like that?
That sounds about right. Wearing slacks was not a good move.
Oh, no. Hey, you know what, though? By Thursday, it's going to be heaven. It's, of course, it's going to be heavenly. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I promise you, you're going to love the weather that's coming in. Okay. Wow. I wish we had a lot to talk about. Oh, we do. Okay. Let's go with the big elephant in the room. Let's go with Emmanuel Clase. We get the news that comes down. We've been all talking about it here for the last 24 hours or so. You're right there on the front lines. What's the mood? What's the vibe at Progressive Field, the clubhouse, the tunnels, the bowels of the building? What's it feel like?
Pure shock. It subsided a little bit today, but the mood yesterday was almost unprecedented because of the magnitude of who was accused and who won't be with the team at this point, realistically, until 2027 at the earliest, if he ever's back with them. It really was a shocking turn of events. And I think today people are kind of settling into it. Last night's terrible loss probably helped slap all of us back to reality.
Yes, the 8-6 setback to the 27 win Colorado Rockies. That'll slap a reality back to anybody. So they're on this on the list here, and it's through the 31st of August. We heard from Chris Antonetti yesterday. We actually played a couple of sound bites on our show yesterday. They don't expect anything else to come down the pike, and I certainly hope not. So as of today, the 29th of July, Brian, are we gonna raise the white flag here in a couple of days? Are we gonna keep grinding and try to make something positive out of this situation? Where do you think the front office is leaning toward what to do or what not to do by 6 o'clock Thursday night?
Honestly, Sam, I think the team kind of waved the white flag for the front office with that terrible loss on Saturday in Game 1 in Kansas City and then last night.
Yep.
Those are two games you absolutely cannot drop if you're going to be a realistic contender. And it's just terrible losses that kick you in the gut and make you feel like we're moving on to next year. So I think the decision's been made for them.
Okay. I think you're right. I think I kind of felt the same way. This was just like the final nail. So look for some activity probably the next day or so that we're going to be unloading some folks and making some moves. And I got to circle back to Class A. We played a comment of Jim Bowden earlier in the show, and I kind of agree with Jim, the former GM of the Cincinnati Reds back in the day. He said, basically in a nutshell, that the Cleveland Guardians front office, they could have hung 5 to 6 teams out to dry in Major League Baseball in what they could have asked and what they could have gotten in return for Emmanuel Clase. He said this was a organizational defining moment the wrong way. That's how strongly he felt what they could have got back in return as far as talent for now and the future. How do you look at that?
Well, let me play devil's advocate just a little bit here.
Sure.
It's well known they were dangling him out for trade possibilities. If this investigation has been going on for a couple weeks with, connecting the dots that probably has something to do with the Luis Ortiz investigation, Emmanuel being thrown in it, Major League Baseball has to approve every trade. They knew this was in the midst. There's a really strong chance MLB wouldn't have approved the trade of Emmanuel Clase to anyone since this investigation started. So I think it's a moot point, and period. It's a moot point because they would have stepped in and not allowed the trade to happen, knowing what might occur.
See, I wasn't thinking about that. All I could think of was, oh my gosh, we could have pillaged a team and got 2-3 prospects, maybe a midline player, and now with Clase, you can't use him, you can't trade him. Just like Ortiz, they're kind of sitting there, And that's all that we're going to get out of him. Brian Dulik is our guest, outstanding writer, Medina Gazette, AP contributor for many, many years, and does a great job covering the North Coast. Brian, so, we watched the game last night, and Bo Naylor hits that 3-run home run, and we're starting to feel good, and maybe we're starting to wipe the sweat away from the Clase thing, and we're gonna get back to guards ball, and then, geez Louise, they give up 4 runs in the 9th inning. And we walk out of there. It was a 2.5-hour, almost 2.5-hour rain delay. That was a long day for everybody yesterday, wasn't
You don't know the half of it.
What time did you get up today? Noon?
Well, I actually had a funny conversation with the Rockies interim manager, Warren Schaefer, before the game today.
Uh-huh.
I said, how late were you awake after an exciting game like that? Because I didn't get to sleep till 6 a.m. He's like, I think I got to sleep by 4, but you're right. Yeah, the day started with the Clase news that we got leaked a little bit ahead of the announcement.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop till I believe 1:47 is when I pulled out of the parking garage here.
Oh man, do I remember those days? Okay.
Oh.
Wow. So, there's names that are still kind of being dangled out there. Who do you think could be on the way out the door here, Brian, before Thursday night?
This is going to sound kind of crazy, but if you think about it, it's true. There aren't many players on this team that are wanted by other teams and that could help a playoff contender right now.
Yeah.
You're obviously never going to trade Jose Ramirez. He's got a no trade clause, and that would just be idiotic to begin with. They're not going to trade Cade Smith. The question becomes the Stephen Kwan domino.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear he will not be here beyond 2 years from now. The negotiations have gone absolutely nowhere between his representatives and the Guardians, and they've been ongoing since late last season. Would now be the time to make that move. That would be the card that might bring you a king's ransom from one of the contenders. And one of the places you hear is perhaps Toronto. So just keep an eye on that. That would be the focus of most of our eyes right now as we approach the deadline, is what happens with Kwan, and will he be on the move to a contender?
Wow. And you know what, Brian? It's no secret that the Cleveland and the Blue Jays, they do business together. Mark Shapiro, the dots are all there. Oh, my gosh.
Correct.
You know what? I can see it. I don't want to see it, but I can see it.
No, I feel the exact same way. It would be terrible, not only on field, but also the optics of the trade, but it's very plausible.
Let me throw a couple more names at you. Carlos Santana, Jacob Junis. Would anybody be in the services for those two? And then Shane Bieber, Brian, he had a nice day at Akron today. 4 innings, pitched really well. Looks like he's coming along. No setbacks that we know of. Would he be possibly out there for somebody to take a shot at, maybe starting, late August or into September to help a team make a run?
Definitely. And that's something that would not happen until Chris Antonetti and Shane Bieber had a long talk about it, though.
Okay.
Because they have a great relationship. That's why Bieber is back. He really doesn't want to leave Cleveland, but he knew he was priced out of the market, and that was not going to happen until he blew out his arm. So with him only under lock and key through the end of this year, and then with a player option for next year, it's very plausible that the team could come to him and say, hey, would you like to go somewhere else for a couple months, and then we'll talk again in the offseason? Very possible. Yeah, in fact, I almost expect that to happen at this point, provided Shane is okay with it, because he really does not ever want to leave here. Carlos Santana, I would say, is probably an 80% possibility to be traded, even if it's just to a National League team that's looking for someone to platoon. He's very valuable, and he's a phenomenal clubhouse guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like there wouldn't be a lot of suitors. It just is a question of finding the right spot, because, again, that would be a move made on behalf of respect for the Guardians front office for what they have for Carlos, and they're not going to send him somewhere crazy where it would be a bad situation.
Boy, I'm telling you, now I'm starting to think we could have 5 or 6 guys going out the door. Oh, my God. Brian, as far as the fan base is concerned, and they've been coming out in pretty good numbers. I got to give them credit, even during the week, during the early when the weather was crappy and school was in, and now the weekends are pretty much packed, and they're getting in the 20s, low 20s, mid 20s for weeknight games. What kind of is it a gut punch to what's about to happen to the fans, or is it something maybe even the Cleveland fans understand that are almost expecting because of the situation we're in?
I think the Quan move would be an unquestionable gut punch. I don't think there's anything else that could hurt worse than the Clase news yesterday as far as wounding the fans. And one thing about the attendance, remember, a lot of these tickets were sold last September and October to give people playoff priority.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You need to buy partial ticket plans.
Good point.
I would not want to be trying to sell single game tickets for the rest of this year or ticket plans for next year at all, in light of the way that this is unfolding. And I mean, let's be honest, there's little hope they would go out and add anyone significant this upcoming offseason. So I would expect an enormous drop in attendance if they trade Quan, although that would not be the sole reason.
Brian, I'm gonna take us a step further, and I'm probably going a little bit too far off the path here, but we've seen it before in sports organizations to where a year, 2 years, maybe even 9 or 10 months before a possible transfer, and I'm talking about the minority group now, David Blitzer may be coming in and taking over things here. Maybe sooner than later, the Dolans would be willing to sell. Is this going to be a full-fledged strip down, get it down to the studs, make the sale, and start over? Should we think about that as a possibility?
No, because David Blitzer won't let it happen. And he's put a lot of money into this team already, even though he doesn't control the organization yet. No, he will not allow that to happen. He's an extremely smart businessman who will not allow this team to turn into a laughingstock like the Rockies or the White Sox. He wants to remain competitive, and he understands, as do the Dolans, you can't completely throw away the last few years of the prime of Jose Ramirez's career.
Agreed.
So it's not an option. They will not do that.
What do you think's going through, speaking of Jose, how do you think he's handling all this, watching what's going on around him after the decision he made to come back at such a low number?
They've gotten rid of a lot of his friends over the last 2 years. And if Carlos Santana is traded, that would be another one. I know it's upsetting to him, but quality of life really is the most important thing to Jose and his family. And as long as they still treat him well here and the fans love him, and because he loves them back, I don't think it's a concern, but it's got to bother him a little bit inside, knowing that after last year, you come within 3 wins of the World Series and the team regresses badly with its offseason moves. And then, what's played out on the field has been obviously much worse than that. I think it's got to bother him a little bit.
Brian Dulik is our guest. Medina Gazette does a great job contributing for the Associated Press. Our pitching, as we move forward, we watch guys like Gavin Williams, Logan Allen. I'm a big Slade Ciccone fan. I know he's a little raw and a little rough around the edges, but I like his bulldog mentality. What's your take on the pitching staff, Brian, and maybe just kind of cruise on through the rest of the bullpen and how that looks now and how it might set up moving forward?
Yeah, starting pitching has not been a problem during this stretch. It really, you can't complain much about what Gavin Williams or Slade Ciccone or Logan Allen and Tanner Bobby's not had a good year, and he'll be the first to admit that, but that's a temporary bump for him. It's been really good. And that's kind of what bothers me the most about this whole situation. The offense has been so poor, and there's no help available on the farm, realistically. It seems like it's going to be a Groundhog Day situation where this happens over and over again until the end of this year and perhaps into next year, because the starters have been good enough to keep them in games and win games. Whether it's been meltdowns earlier in games in the bullpen or at the very end, like we saw last night with Cade, it's a real rough situation, because you're getting what you need to win games and stay in them with the starters, and it's not happening. Cade Smith will certainly be the closer going forward. He's got all the mentality to do it, and they've kind of been grooming him from the moment he made the team at the start of 2024. Hunter Gaddis has had an up and down year. Obviously, Tim Herron has literally had an up and down year with going down to the minors. I don't view them as options. Eric Zabrowski is definitely someone who will move into a much deeper role. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a couple of save opportunities, perhaps as early as tonight if the opportunity presents itself, because Cade Smith mentally really took the Clase news hard yesterday before the game, and I think that showed in the way he pitched.
A couple more and we'll let you go, Brian. Appreciate your time. Do you think there's any possibility, I know there's some injury situations too, Travis Mazzana, CJ Kafis, Juan Brito, I know they're all kind of going through some stuff. Mazzana's back now. Any way at all we see any of those guys here for the call-ups or maybe even sooner?
Definitely, without question. I would say September 1st is almost certain for all three of them, provided the team has nothing to play for, and I don't think they will by that point. Yeah, you have a couple bodies on the roster, like Jonathan Rodriguez primarily, who really are just taking up space temporarily until these kids are ready. So, yeah, you definitely will see them. And that would be the only chance for this team to stay relevant in the final month of the season and to try to juice some ticket sales in the offseason.
As we know, that Tito was here for a long, long time, did a great job with the organization. He loved Cleveland. He went through some bad times. He had to deal with stuff from upstairs and the financial constraints and everything. Stephen Vogt, Brian, it looks like there are a couple more gray hairs in that goatee than there was at the beginning of the year. I was thinking about it today. Just a small little bar, two guys, Tito Francona and Stephen Vogt, sitting there maybe having a beer. What's that conversation like between those two right now, knowing what they both have been and are going through?
Probably Tito would say, now do you see why I left?
I was just going to say
people make your lineups every single day, and you have no control. And they'd have a good laugh about that, and then they'd both have a drink of hard liquor, I'm sure, to commiserate over it. But that would definitely be number one.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Stephen Vogt is saying, make it a double. And I think that's where I think this conversation goes. Brian, thank you so much for coming on. Stay cool on a hot night in Cleveland. I'm sure we'll try to catch up with you soon. And we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, Sam. Have a great day.
You got it. Brian Dulik from the Medina Gazette and contributor for the Associated Press.